You're listening to the Soullessminions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. Hello, my name is Josh, and sitting with me in the Soullessminions studios is my brother Justin. Say hello.
Hello.
Our movie for tonight is from 2013, called Man of Steel. Relatively recent. But before we get started with that, Justin and I have a little proposal for any listeners out there, just to see if we can get in touch with people who are listening out there. We have an idea. We're going to offer that whoever listens to our podcasts and would like a free DVD of one of our podcasts, any one of our commentaries that we've done, including this one, it could be this one, or any one we've done in the past. If you'd like a free DVD, just email us to soullessminions@gmail.com. Tell us where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and I don't know, maybe say a few kind words about this podcast or unkind words, whatever. We like to hear from you. So
just acknowledge us in some way. That would be nice.
Just get in touch with us. We want to know who's listening out there. So if that sounds interesting to you, just shoot us an email and say a few things about yourself and maybe if you like this podcast or not. This will only be valid for about a week after this podcast is posted, and then this part will be removed. So, and I believe it's just going to be probably the first 3 people to email us if we get that many, because I can't be sending out any unlimited amount of DVDs. So, and please, I can only send within the continental United States. I'm sorry for folks listening abroad, but it can only be within the United States, the continental United States. So, all that aside, okay, let's get back to the movie. It's Man of Steel, and the sync point is going to be pretty far into the actual movie. About, on the DVD, I have 57 seconds. What does the Blu-ray say, Justin?
I wouldn't know. I'm not watching it.
Oh, that's right. You're not watching the Blu-ray. I forgot. But it's pretty far in. It's after the Syncopy logo. I believe there's about 4 different logos. But right when the Syncopy logo goes all the way to black, go ahead and press pause. So when you hear me say unpause, we'll all unpause together and watch the movie in sync. Okay, here comes the countdown. 3, 2, 1, unpause.
So here we are right away seeing the birth of Kal-El.
Did you see this in the theater?
Twice.
Oh, twice. I didn't know you saw it twice.
Mm-hmm. I did. I truly did.
Well, so what's the deal? Do you like this movie?
I will say that after I saw it the first time, I came out disappointed. But I've seen it a few times since then, and I've actually, my affection for the movie has actually grown. I don't think it's perfect. It does have some issues, but I think I think initially what I didn't like about it was just that it wasn't Christopher Reeve's Superman, and so that was kind of shocking to me. But once that wore off and I could watch the movie for what it was and not what it wasn't, I became to appreciate the many good things that the movie offers.
Don't you think this stuff is kind of stereotypical stuff here going on? Like the exteriors they were showing, kind of typical CG planet exteriors. I was really kind of like disappointed with that part.
Well, I mean, I think they look good, but I suppose you're right. They are kind of typical CG stuff. I mean, the very beginning, of course, we're opening on the birth of Kal-El, and it cuts to the shot of that, Kryptonian bull, whatever raising its head. And all I could think of was, it was the friggin' Lion King. I was waiting for
Circle of Life
to start. I thought,
well,
God, I can't be the only one.
I wasn't too hip to this when I first started watching it. I was like, it's when they're making it this draconian.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at what they're wearing. I mean, come on. And this it's an advanced society, but they look at this room they're in. It's ancient looking architecture. They're mixing the two, which isn't bad. It's just
I don't mind that.
I don't mind. No, it's not. But it's just I wasn't really vibing with the style they were going with from the onset. I was like, all right, well, but all that aside, I wasn't bored. As with a previous Superman film,
right?
Which everyone knows what it is. Superman,
where he returns,
where the one where he returns. Yeah, that one. That one was, I don't know if it was just a bad movie or if it was just a boring movie. I'm kind of on the fence. It's one of the
both.
It's one of the few movies in the theater that I've actually walked out on. I'm sorry for people who enjoy that. I just did not like it at all, and I know you don't like it either. So
no.
But this is great. We're doing Man of Steel. We do every Superman movie. I enjoy doing Superman movie commentaries with you because you always have a plethora of information.
A plethora
of information to give.
Well, I'll talk more about that, but this movie starts off fast, so I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, no Shakespearean monologuing or anything like that.
No, we get right into the action, and I think that's a good thing. Since he's on screen, I absolutely loved Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I thought he was awesome. I liked it. Ironically, he's probably actually pretty darn close in age to Marlon Brando when Brando did it, but he doesn't come off as a stiff old man like Brando did. Now Brando, he was told to do that.
That's
Brando wasn't an old man, but they were definitely crafting the character to look and kind of feel like a stately old man or older man. Crowe just comes off as an older guy, not an old man, and I think he comes off as still as vital and powerful. I love that they made Jor-El fight. I think that was awesome.
Well, yeah, Russell Crowe has that seasoned, kind of wise look to him. He looks
seasoned.
He looks like he's been through the thick of things.
He does, and I love his voice. He has
he's got a great
voice.
Oh yeah,
and he, as powerful a guy as he is, he's also very good at doing quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And when he talks to Zod at the very beginning, and he says, "And who will decide? You." He does that very well. He does thoughtful very well. He's one of the few that could pull that off. That can pull off ass kicking and quiet, quiet intelligence very well. I was actually really surprised. Not at his ability as an actor, just that I just wasn't expecting that. So that was a really pleasant surprise, seeing Jor-El portrayed that way, seeing Russell Crowe. I mean, I didn't go into it thinking I wasn't going to like Russell Crowe, but I was really surprised at how much I did. And I did enjoy, even though, yes, the exteriors are CG, I did enjoy the different take on what Krypton looked like. And being a person who has watched every different incarnation of Superman, I'm fully aware that the ice crystal version of Krypton is not the only version. It's just the most recognized, by most people because of the Donner films. But it's not the only version. In fact, Krypton, I dare say, is more often portrayed as just a futuristic society. Basically, it looks like Earth, 1,000 years in the future. Buildings and all that stuff, not the crystal version that we saw in the Donner films. So seeing Krypton look like this, I enjoyed it. Seeing this creature that Jor-El is riding, I thought was really cool. And right away also, especially right here at this part of the movie, we're getting treated to some really cool music too. Now, it's not the John Williams score, and it never will be, and it wasn't trying to be. But Hans Zimmer did a good job, and it felt epic, even though it wasn't. I want to say, what's the word I'm looking for? Because this, even though the score is good, it is good, and as much as I love the the John Williams score. The John Williams score stuff would not have applied to this movie. It wouldn't work. If you try and put that soundtrack on this movie, it would just feel totally wrong. That said, the Zimmer score doesn't have character, I guess you could say. Would you agree with that?
I don't think you need me on this commentary. I think I'll just leave. You're doing just fine.
There's a word that I can't quite find.
It has a mundanity.
The Zimmer score, and I don't mean this as an insult. It sounds more like background music. There's no
filler, like action filler music.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. It's good music, but when you play most of the tracks of the original, the John Williams score, you hear the theme for every character. Now, I'm not saying there are not themes for the characters in this movie, but you can't hum them. No. They're not recognizable. That's what I mean. Why they feel more like background music.
You're right.
So
I like the main theme to this movie, but it will never be able to match the power of Williams.
Of course, what can
you can't. So, but you're right. It does lack character. That is a good way to put it. It does. I mean, it does get you in the mood, but it's not memorable is what the problem is.
Exactly. It's not memorable. And the same goes for the Batman scores, for the new Batman movies. They're good,
but
they're
as good as
more
Elfman.
Background. No, not as good as Elfman's. Elfman's was full of character.
The score to the first Batman was beautiful. And when I watched Batman Begins, I was like, and I couldn't remember any of the music. And I still can't.
I don't think you were supposed to. It wasn't
designed to be that way.
Itself.
No, that's true.
Exactly.
Well, a lot's going on here, and
yes,
I don't know anything about the comic book Superman. I had no idea that Krypton was portrayed in any other way other than what I saw in the Donner film. So when I saw this, I was like, what is this place? What's going on? Where's the ice? Where's the guilty? Where's all that? And what's with these big flying birds? Whatever those things are, but
just big flying birds, I guess.
Well, of course not all birds fly, but giant pterodactyl looking thingamajiggers. But
it's like a dinosaur,
something like that. But I had no idea. I was like, wow, they're really taking another angle on this thing. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. I'll see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But did you obviously approved of it from what you said? It was nice to see it.
Oh
done
yeah,
differently.
One thing that even though when I first saw the movie, when I walked out of the theater, even though on that first viewing, I wasn't particularly in love with the movie.
I didn't even notice because I've only seen this movie once. He just put the suit on.
His battle suit.
Well, that's the Superman suit.
Oh, he was wearing it throughout the whole movie. Whenever he's in it, anyway, even in the beginning, he's wearing a different suit. Russell Crowe, yes, but he's wearing.
I mean, he put on the blue Superman suit. Not his.
Oh no, it's not blue; it's black.
It looked like he just it looked blue to me.
No, in fact, he was wearing that black outfit when he went underwater and stole the Codex.
I don't know. It looked blue. And it looked like I could see the red S underneath. That's what. Maybe I just saw it wrong. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, no, it's black, just like Zod's. I think it's just it's kind of like their underwears, so to speak.
Underwears.
It's all the same color.
Okay.
No, he wears it just like Kal-El. In fact, that's why, and I kind of like that reasoning. Why?
Go ahead. No, keep going.
I was just saying that's why Superman's suit is the way it is, because that is the way they wear their clothing on Krypton. All he did, in fact, Zod has the exact same outfit, except it's all black. He even has a cape. Superman's suit is just a Kryptonian outfit. The only thing Jor-El did was make it red and blue. In this version of the movie. Anyway.
Yeah. And
I like that. It explains it.
Well, yeah, because his mom didn't make it. So,
right.
As she always had before in other incarnations.
Well, in most versions that I'm aware of, she made it out of the material in the spacecraft.
What's the deal with him diving underwater getting he saw that skull. He had the skull in his hand.
The codex.
That's what's with all the infants underwater? What was...
That's their birthing chamber.
Well, I can assume, but I don't know. That's kind of awkward. Is that new?
Well, yeah, it's new to this movie. I mean, there may be some version of a comic book that has it, but I'm not familiar with it. Essentially, I'm just going to assume it's a creation of this movie. Why it's underwater, I don't know, but the birthing chambers are directly connected to the codex because the Kryptonians are genetically engineered, and they kind of come from that skull, the codex. Why they're underwater, I don't know, but they are.
Yeah, so
I like this scene. It's a good scene.
Yeah.
And this I did not see coming.
Yeah, that came out of... He took
and
it
I
home.
love Russell Crowe's reaction. It was just, ow. And then he's out.
Yeah, he's gone.
No dramatic little moment. He's done.
Well, they're changing the way things go already. It's not the sun going... Well, it didn't go nova, at least not that I know of, at least in the Donner film. I don't know if it just expanded. Is that what happened?
No, Krypton exploded in that one too.
Did it just blow up? But it was something. It had something to do with the sun, and it wasn't. Didn't the sun, didn't it? The sun blow up or expand or something like that? Am I imagining things? I swear it had something to do with their sun. There was something wrong with it. It wasn't terrestrial. It was.
There's so many different versions. I'm
talking about the one. I'm talking about Donner's film. I mean, that's what.
Yeah, if I recall, the opening shots of even Superman Returns show the sun, collapsing on itself and exploding and taking Krypton with it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's something internal. It's their core or something like that, right?
Well, in the original Donner cut, the planet goes on itself. That's why the earthquakes and all that. So I want to say that was an internal planet. I don't know. I don't want to say too much because I'm probably going to be wrong. For some reason, I'm completely blanking on that.
Yeah, it's a surprise. Usually
when I saw this, I never thought twice about the fact that Krypton was imploding. So it doesn't raise an eye to me. It seems perfectly logical. And they explain it, which is, yeah, sure, they don't go into detail, but here's your guilty scene. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's just... Well, nowhere near the same, but it's okay. I like Michael Shannon. That's his name, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like him. He has an intensity to him, but I don't think they gave him enough ammunition, not enough to chew on. Nothing.
Well, if you think about...
They just have him act angry all the time, and it's
Yes. Yes,
and he's good. He's good at doing that, but he's very good at doing that. But there's just not enough.
Well, I agree. And if you compare him to Terrence Stamp, and at least Terrence Stamp's motivation in Superman 2, if anything, this Zod has more motivation.
Well, I think what makes a great villain is one that you can you find yourself sympathizing with and actually liking. Yeah, of course.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't.
Like like Hans Gruber, you secretly want Hans to win.
Well, yeah, he's just so charismatic.
Well, yeah, but he's intelligent, and you do.
There go the giant penises.
Yeah, this was awkward. I felt.
Yeah, why?
They don't really explain this very well.
No, and actually,
for the uninitiated, I think they would be confused about what's going on. I know they're going to the Phantom Zone.
They're not really. It's like they're just being put in stasis in a ship. In some other dimension.
They go into the Phantom Zone. That's where they're going.
It's not the same though.
But he even says we were in the Phantom Zone.
Well, yeah, but they're in stasis though. They're in these little chambers. Why put them in the Phantom Zone at all? Just keep them on the planet where at least you know where they are. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is
they're committing tremendous resources just to send these few people.
Yeah, because they don't explain what this is, what this is doing. It's just a giant CG effect, and what's going on? This I found was just completely unexplained.
Yeah, I agree.
And not good at all. It's I don't know what this thing is doing right now. What is it doing? Do you even know? I don't.
It's creating a, like an opening into a separate, like, say, dimension. It seems to me that's what I got from it.
Yeah, well,
Although actually that's not really what's going on, because they are just being sent into a different part of space, because in Zod's explanation to Kal-El later on, he says they were put into the Phantom Zone, and then when Krypton exploded, they were released. But it doesn't actually show that. It seems like they just came out of stasis a far enough distance away, and they literally watched Krypton, in pieces. So it kind of doesn't add up if you think about it. They're not in the Phantom Zone as we kind of have come to think of it. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about, because their own visual information tends to contradict what he said,
Whole destruction went down rather quickly.
Yeah, that was fast. Just pop. And I love how it starts to come back together. Even the gravity of the chunks is pulling the little pieces back in. I like that.
Yeah.
See, now this, okay, we just watched Kal-El's craft come out of a whatever you want to call it, a vortex or something or other. Now, this part I've never entirely understood. In the original Superman, it kind of made sense to me, because you never see Kal-El's spaceship go through any sort of like wormhole, let's say. It looks like he made that journey physically, like maybe at light speed. So because of Einstein's theories of moving faster than light, he could be moving at light speed, and to him the journey would take, a small amount of time, but to everyone outside of that, in that case, like 1,000 years or so had passed. And that comes out in dialogue even. But and they reference, you see, this is what doesn't make sense. We just saw him do that. So that to me says that craft was not moving at the speed of light. It went through some sort of wormhole, let's say, to cross the distance from Krypton to Earth. But later in the movie, I know Zod says it, and I think Jor-El says it also. They referenced the fact that the events of Jor-El and Zod, all of that on Krypton, were like thousands of years ago. Doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember hearing that part.
That doesn't add up. Not to mention the fact that Zod explains that they came out of stasis right before the friggin' planet exploded. And he proceeds to give us the explanation that they've been out there for essentially Clark's entire lifetime, 33 years on Earth. They've spent that 33 years looking for the old abandoned Kryptonian outposts on different planets and so on and so forth. Yet they don't seem to have aged a day. But by his own explanation, they've been out for already 33 years before they came upon Kal-El on Earth. So I think they needed to do a little bit more thinking in how they explained that. But
what'd you think about this? They jumped right from the his pod crashing to
present day.
Yeah, present day. He's a grown man. They're playing with the continuity.
Well, they're not really playing with continuity. They're playing with
well, you know what I mean.
Chronology.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah.
That they are definitely going for the flashback structure that the Batman series did. The Nolan series. You see, you got to understand, I'm a fan of these comic book movies. So when they started doing that, all I could think was that they were mimicking the structure of the Batman movie, particularly Batman Begins. And while the Batman Begins or Batman movies were certainly not the first to incorporate a flashback structure, given that this movie in so many other ways was trying to mimic Batman Begins, I thought, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Maybe it seems too obvious that you're trying to copy that, hoping for the same success. So that's all I could think. It called attention to itself. Had Batman Begins never existed, this probably wouldn't have, caught my attention in any way. But it did, and that's all I thought, was that they were trying to ape Batman Begins. I don't think it's bad. Just
no, I don't think it. I don't think it particularly. Well, maybe it doesn't particularly work. I don't know, but they were at least trying something different.
Well, they were and they weren't. Like I said, they were trying something different in regards to previous Superman movies.
Yeah, that's what
they
I mean.
were copying.
I mean, like
movie,
unlike
so.
Superman Returns, which played it completely safe. They didn't take any risks with that.
No.
This, at least they were trying. I mean, even though they were kind of copying a kind of popular style, but I think this is like the least Zack Snyder-y film I've ever seen. It doesn't really have it doesn't have that feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Watchmen does.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That said, though, I don't think the flashback structure entirely works in this movie.
I like Diane Lane.
I like Diane Lane. I love Kevin Costner.
Oh yeah.
I just the way that they
this was interesting. They've never shown this before from his point of view.
What, Little Clark?
Well, from his point of view, when he's looking through his eyes and you see that he can see.
Oh, I see.
Through the door, you can see their skeleton. You can see, what I'm talking about. They've never shown that point of view before.
They've shown Superman's ability to, see through things in many different forms.
Well, I've never seen it portrayed before.
It's actually, the way they portrayed in this is actually, they did it in Smallville pretty much. It looks like an X-ray. I don't like that because that's not actually what Superman does. He has the term X-ray vision, but they make a big deal of it.
Yeah, I've always thought
comics and other things that it's not X-rays.
Yeah, I've always thought he just saw through things.
He does. He has the ability to focus his eyes so intently that he can see through most objects.
Yeah, I didn't think it was necessarily he would see bone structure like an actual X. I never thought of it like that.
Well, no, because if you think about it, the way an X-ray works, he lacks equipment that X-ray.
I mean, it's just called X-ray vision because it sounds cool.
Yes, yeah. In fact, Batman even called him out on it once, going, "Hey, it's not really X-rays, right? Because that'd be radiation and all that." And he's like, "No, it's not."
Yeah.
But nevertheless, no. It's not X-ray. Not X-rays in the medical sense. He is huge.
Yeah, he got ripped for this movie.
He sure damn did.
So, what'd you think about this?
I think that one of the first times we see Kal-El / Superman, he's a thief.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, really,
I didn't mean about this, but I mean, he's not the typical Clark Kent. He's not. I mean, it starts off. He's not working at the Daily Planet. He's not a mild-mannered reporter. He's a drifter working on a fishing boat.
Yeah, and he's in Smallville, I might add, where he stole those clothes. He could have just super ran to his house and got some clothes.
But he is still growing up in Kansas, at least. Obviously, this is a flashback right here.
Oh yes.
So he's still growing up in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? You see the game?
And that is a young Pete Ross and a young Lana Lang.
Who's Pete Ross?
Pete Ross is a character that did exist in the comic books. He was a friend of Clark Kent, and for the most part, as far as I recall, he knew that Clark could do the things that he can do, but Clark didn't know that he knew. So Pete would run interference whenever Clark would do something superhero-y. Pete would run interference and try and protect his secrets.
Oh, I see.
It's the best of my memory. And like I said, there's Lana, although it really doesn't do anything. They reference her name. But
I don't even. I've only seen the movie once. I don't remember hearing a name, but
yeah, that's her.
They don't make anything of it. That's just something for fans.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Did they plan on bringing back the Lana character at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Or
not unless they. Maybe if they do Superman 3, Maybe.
Well, they're doing the Superman.
They're doing Batman versus Superman,
right?
But maybe their Superman 3 will be like the original Superman 3, and he'll go back to Smallville, and we'll meet Lana again. Who knows?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Maybe Amy Adams will not want to come back for the third one, or won't be asked back, and they'll need to bring in Lana. Who knows? What do you think about this scene? I like this scene.
It's all right.
I like that it's practical. It's not special effects.
No, you're right. That is a good thing. Unlike that giant oil refinery. Whatever.
I like the oil refinery scene. I thought it was pretty cool, but I like this too because it's real.
It is, but there's the Superman films and superhero films in general. They always have the same old circumstance happen where there's a giant disaster and Clark just happens to be there. It's always got to be a bunch of innocent bystanders at risk. And they kind of always do it in the same way. It's just
like it couldn't be that he was on the farm and some big windmill was going to fall on the cows and he saved the cows.
Well, no, I mean it's just he's always seeming to be around these disasters when they happen. I'm like, come on, seriously, that many things don't happen to one guy. But I mean, he could have been. I mean, it would make sense. Say he's watching it on TV, he sees it's happening in another state. Oh, I better get over there. See, he wasn't just there; he saw it, so he's like, okay, I better go. But he's on a school bus that happens to crash off of a bridge. I mean, the odds are just, come on.
You have to.
But that kind of stuff happens in Spider-Man movies too.
Yeah,
in particular, and it's just kind of same old, same old. I'm like, all right.
Well, what do you think about what's going on right now? The actual dialogue exchange.
I wasn't overly impressed with much of the dialogue in the movie. It was fine.
I don't mean the dialogue per se. I mean actually what they are talking about and what Jonathan Kent is saying.
Let
me put it in context.
I've only seen the movie once, so I'm reading the subtitles.
What Costner is saying, or the kid is saying, the kid asks him straight up, "Should I not have saved them? Should I have essentially played dumb?"
And he says yes,
and not done it. And he says, "I don't know. Maybe."
He says, okay.
Costner's Jonathan Kent is played as similar to the Jonathan Kent in the originals, only
he's cautious.
He has a layer of cautiousness that the other one doesn't quite have. And I like that he's still the good man Jonathan Kent that we always know, but he's a little more realistic and protective. He's just saying, look, the world's not ready for you. And if you are known, if you become known, everything is going to change. And he's just trying to protect his boy. He understands that he wants to do the right thing and he almost needs to do the right thing. He's just being protective. He's not saying so much don't do it. He even says, I don't know. And I like that. I like the question in his mind. But he's never portrayed as anything but a good man. It's just the protection of his son that he's not sure about. And I know this scene in particular you thought was a little cheesy, the way the boy...
Did we talk about this scene?
Yeah, we talked about it in the trailer. Because little Clark says, can I just pretend to keep being your son?
Oh, well, maybe when I saw it in the trailer, it felt
you
that
did
way.
In the trailer. You called it out as like, oh, that's a trailer moment. That's cheesy.
Oh, well, sure, but the scene by itself is fine.
Oh yeah, I thought so. And it's I swear you can almost see Kevin Costner as he's about to almost say exactly the same things that Glenn Ford said. Yeah. You could almost see him going,
"You are here for a reason."
Yeah, he almost says it, and you see him take a breath, and it's almost like you see his wheels turning, going, "Okay, how can I say this different?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's got to be a real trick of the filmmakers, the actors, to have to do a scene like this that's been done so many times before.
Yeah,
and
it must be.
It must be hard to how do we keep it fresh? How do we make it fresh and feel new again? But you still have to convey that same information. And how do we do that? That's got to be tough.
Yeah.
See, this is like that asshole in Superman 2 who...
Yeah, I've said many a times that this movie is essentially Superman 1 and 2 mixed together, rolled into one. That's what it is. It's all the same scenes, just mixed up and juiced up. You could take the actual Superman the movie and Superman 2, take those movies, re-edit them, and almost fake this movie. You know what I mean? That would be really interesting to see.
Be an interesting experiment.
It would be. It would be kind of fun because I'm telling you, this movie's a mash of the two of them.
I did like this moment where he punches him.
No, he goes to push him.
He goes to push him and nothing happens and he falls back. That was fun right here.
Yeah, when I saw it with the crowd, everyone got a good laugh out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like the way, and I don't want to say Clark. I think Henry Cavill kind of, I don't think it was his fault, but he gives a line delivery in this. It already happened, but when he said, the guy, the villain, the bad guy here says, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm just going to have to ask you to leave. He comes off as too much of a puss, quite frankly. I read a review or saw a review where someone said, Clark could have very easily escorted this guy out and not lost any face and not given away the fact that he was ultra powerful, as opposed to this, where someone's going to ask, how the hell did that happen?
I could have done without that.
It got a great reaction in the theater, and I laughed too.
I'm sure
it's
a crowd. Yeah, it's a crowd pleasing moment.
It's a crowd pleaser,
but it's too much. It's
too much,
and
exactly.
I think it shows an immature Clark. That
it does.
It shows him that he has anger issues or something like that.
Well, it's in total conflict to what we just saw 30 seconds ago.
Well, no,
he showed reservation.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, so he got all riled up because of this asshole in a bar, so he had to trash it. I mean, come on, seriously? I was like, he should be a little more at peace than that, not able to deal with anger. It seems to me like he has an anger issue.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, he did that. I mean,
he's got angst, that's for sure.
Just too much. I mean, something like that, when you're Superman, you should just be able to shake it off and okay, he's just a jerk.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. But he goes and does that.
You can't really say that because, look, he does it in Superman 2. He actually does go after the guy later.
Yeah, that's a bit different, though. I mean, he doesn't...
he straight up goes back for revenge.
Yeah, but he didn't... he didn't, do to that guy's truck what, he just... It was just felt a little different.
We don't know that. For all we know, that guy could have walked out and Clark could have trashed his truck. We don't.
Well, it felt different in Superman 2. He came back. He confronted him personally. Mm-hmm. In this, he did it just as, I'm just gonna, flatten this. It's like when you slash.
How did
somebody's,
he know that was his truck?
It's like when you slash somebody's tires that you don't like, or put sugar in their gas tank or something. It's sneaky. Yeah. It's not the same thing.
And that's not that trucker's personal truck. That's a company's truck that he just trashed.
Yeah, right.
And at least in Superman 2, he gave the owner the money for whatever he broke.
Yeah,
like, here, this is for the damages.
Yeah, that's true.
This, he just, the insurance will cover it.
It's okay. They've discovered this is their version of
the Fortress.
The Fortress of Solitude. Okay. Mm-hmm. Amy Adams.
Lois Lane. What do you think about Amy Adams? Lois.
Oh, as Lois?
Yeah. Well, give me both.
Well, I like Amy Adams. She's very pretty, very funny actress, and not just funny, just good. I thought she did a good job as Lois, not the typical Lois, not what I'm used to, which was fine because I've never liked Lois, but I thought she was a likable character in this movie. Mm-hmm. I liked her just fine. I thought I don't know if the two of them really have strong chemistry.
I don't think they were really given the chance.
That's true, but I don't. When I look at when I look at the two of them on screen together, I don't feel a presence.
I don't either.
Combining,
no.
When I saw Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve, they had a presence together.
They had a chemistry together.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, I'm not talking about when they were even saying anything. Just standing in the same frame. I'm like, yeah, okay. They both draw the eye in the same. Yeah, okay, that works. When I see the two of them, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, they're both fine separately, but together, I don't know. It's too early to tell. Like you said, they really don't have enough to do together in the movie.
Yeah, it's just the way the story flows that they don't have a lot of alone time together.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. They may share some screen time together, but they're with other people and they're doing other things. They're not developing any sort of romantic type thing.
So how did he... you're going to have to refresh my memory. How did he get to this point? How did he get here?
Well, he was working with the military team, as a civilian, obviously, that was unearthing whatever was under the ice. They didn't know what it was. He obviously got himself attached to it. Actually, I don't know why. They don't really explain that. There's no reason for him to assume that what the government was secretly looking for was in any way connected to him. Maybe it was just a fluke that he ended up as a grunt worker, essentially, and he got curious and wanted to go look. I don't think there was any reason for him to think that it was connected to his Kryptonian past. It was just a fluke. But then, of course, you have to wonder if this was that secret of a project, where they wouldn't let reporters in. She had to force her way in, basically. What are the odds that he would get in there with forced fake credentials? But whatever. But yeah, he, from all intents and purposes, he just kind of stumbled upon, this. I mean, he knew he was looking for whatever they were looking for, but he didn't know it had anything to do with his past.
What do you think of Kryptonian architecture in this movie?
It's okay. It's, I don't know, a little bland.
Is it a little like, doesn't it feel like they're trying a little too hard to make it dark?
Yeah. I would say that's fair.
Because everything's grayish here. It's all
no
colors.
It's very colorless.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, here's they don't really explain this technology, and they never really have, even in the Donner films. But
he explains that essentially he is a program. He's
a very interactive program, though.
Extremely interactive. It's like, did Jor-El even die? It's right here.
Well, it's like in when I would watch the Donner movies, I never questioned it when I was younger, but now I'm like, he seems to know awful. It kind of seems like he's there.
Yeah, in the Donner cuts, it comes off as more he's an interactive program, and he feels like a program. Like he is simply, the Jor-El face is more just the interface for the knowledge that Jor-El put into the program. Whereas this seems like, and he says it, he really is Jor-El's consciousness, somehow copied at some point in time, and like almost has his memories and everything. It seems like.
Yeah, it would seem almost like immortality, almost.
Yeah, kind of. I wish they had downplayed that a little.
See, what is this thing? Some kind of sentry?
Oh, it's a version of that thing that was following around Jor-El. Oh wait, I love this. Watch. She's struggling. Who is this guy? And he goes, "Wait, look, trust me, I'm good looking." She's like, "Okay."
This was interesting.
Yeah,
I like this.
Cauterizes her wound.
Yeah, I haven't seen Superman do this before with his.
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice little touch, and it hurts. And he tells her this.
When he warns, like, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, but then he promptly leaves her in the ice, leaves her out on the ice, which we just heard a few minutes ago. The Christopher Maloney character telling her, "Don't go out there. We won't find you until the spring." So he just dumps her out there. Mm-hmm. Maybe they wouldn't have found her. I thought that was kind of messed up. Rather than drop her at the doorstep of this place, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly nighttime now, and they don't find her until morning. She would have frozen to death. And the character with the beard, I forget what's his real name, the actor.
I can't remember offhand.
Oh, I would know it if I saw it. He's playing a character called Emil Hamilton, who is a character from the comic books. For the most part, Emil Hamilton is usually the scientist that Superman will kind of go to if he has questions about his physiology, and he's a scientist that he trusts.
Okay.
And he goes to say, how come kryptonite affects me like this? How come I can't do this, or whatever? And Hamilton will try and figure it out. Superman will let him examine him.
Well, he kind of did just ditch her there.
Yeah, he sure did. They had to take a helicopter to go find her. And she's been out there potentially for quite a few hours. She'd be dead.
And no point cauterizing the wound if she's dead. But, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Larry Fishburne.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting choice. I don't know if I ever would have thought of putting Fishburne in this role.
I wouldn't have thought of it, but he's great. There's no reason why Perry White has to be black. Or has to be white.
Has to be white. No, not at all. But, I mean, he has the gravity to pull off someone that they would head a newsroom. You know, he looks like, I'm like, all right, I buy it. Sure.
He does. So did Frank Langella in Superman Returns. They just didn't give him anything to do.
Oh, yeah. Frank Langella did a good job.
He was awesome. It's almost the same with Fishburne here. We just kind of get a taste of who Perry White is. But we don't need to know his history. You know, he does a good job in the limited parts that we see him.
Got it. But didn't you once describe...
Woodburn here is also, I believe, a character that's referenced in the comics.
Oh, is he?
I think.
Who is he in the comics? Yeah, obviously.
Well, he's this kind of guy, like a reporter guy.
Oh,
I think
see.
he is.
I don't like it when they show modern technology like that in a movie because it's going to date it. You know, I hate that. You know, when they had their phones out.
Right.
I don't like that. It's
Yeah,
not going
I see
to
what you
date
mean.
well. No.
Yeah.
Recursive diagnostics complete.
Yeah. Some kid watching it, 20 years from now will go, what? It wasn't holographic?
Yeah, right. It's not going to date.
Yeah, no real explanation as to how he actually flew that ship, how it got where it got.
So he just flew the ship to this point?
I believe he did, or at least I think there's a line of dialogue from the computer that suggests that it maybe did it on automation, but per his orders. But they don't really show you that. They really should have.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't really focus too intently on that aspect of the movie. I wasn't. Yeah, this whole business with the ship and how it got there, I was kind of passive about. I wasn't really trying to analyze it, so I probably should have. I guess I'm trying to say. Well, we haven't even mentioned Henry Cavill. Is it Cavill? Henry Cavill?
Cavill.
Cavill. What do you think about him?
Tricky. I think he's good. I think he's a good choice, but I think any issues in his performance weren't a fault of his as an actor. I think it was just a weakness in the script. He's usually portrayed as brooding, essentially, and
angsty.
Angsty. And I'm not saying Superman, but a developing Superman can't be angsty. But unfortunately, it's just another damn copy of Batman. And they've done it already. It's called Batman. Let him have his journey, but he doesn't need to be angst-ridden. His character in this is almost a mix of Bruce Wayne and Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner has to travel the world alone because he's too powerful and he doesn't want to be discovered. That's almost exactly what Clark Kent is in this movie. He's a wandering nomad like Bruce Banner is, for the most part. And it just... I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's just, to me, it seems like a copy of too many other things. And what I think is lacking a little bit in his performance is... And I'm not saying it's not there, but the sense of good boy goodness that Superman always has.
The truth, justice, and American way.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he can't have angst. But, I mean, look at Jonathan Kent in this movie. He has the angst of whether or not to encourage his son to, openly use his powers to save people. He knows it's the right thing to do, and he is a good man. I mean, he sacrifices himself. He is portrayed as a very good man, yet he still has the angst. But in this, in early Clark Kent that we see here, he seems more angsty than good boy. And I
like
miss that.
Bruce Wayne was in Batman Begins, yeah.
Exactly. like I said, it's not that he's not portrayed as a good man. Of course he is, but you know, he like Clark can't like.
Well, I mean, with all these
exudes it comes out of his pores.
So with all these other alterations that are going on with this story, that's the one. That's one of the things that you're really uncomfortable with, that they felt they shouldn't have tampered with. Just
not so much that they shouldn't have tampered with. I just think they should have paid more attention to keeping intact the presentation of his Boy Scout attitudes, while still having the angst that he has. The thing is in this movie.
Well, that's my point, though. I mean, since they're messing with the traditional Superman that people are familiar with, why can't you be okay with him just dropping that Boy Scout mentality and just being angsty? What's wrong with that? Why can't he just be angsty?
Well,
it seems to me. I mean, they're turning a lot of things on its head. Why not do that too?
Well, Jor-El in from this movie, not any other version, Jor-El in this is straight up telling him, you are going to be a symbol of good and justice and truth for this world. They are going to follow your example. But because of the situations that we are seeing Clark in, he's not. I mean, yes, he does. He saves the bus and all of that, but we see more angst than we see him as someone that you want to get behind. He has the powers, of course, and because of his power, people will follow him, but it's not necessarily because of his mentality, which he does have in this. It's just not portrayed as strongly as I think it should have been, especially in light of what Jor-El keeps pushing on him. I mean, he says it more than once. He's like forcing him to be, a leader of mankind. And I mean, maybe Clark/Kal-El doesn't want to do that, but Jor-El is telling him, no, this is what you're going to do. He's not saying it's destiny. He's just saying, because of who you are, because of what you're capable of, even though I don't know you as an individual and you could have been raised as a total douchebag, because of the abilities that you will have here, the world will follow you and, lead by your example. But he doesn't know what that example is. He has no idea who Clark is as a person. No idea. And so for him to be talking like that, we should also see Clark/Kal-El exude those qualities while, like in abundance, while still being angsty about revealing his powers to the world. Even to reference the show Smallville, I feel like they got that right. Clark was very angsty in that, but he definitely came across as the good old boy with his attitude of this is right and this is wrong, and I'm going to fight to defend it. And to hell with you if you don't like it, because I know what's right. And I feel that part of his attitude was not overly portrayed in this version of him, and I think that hurts his character just a little.
I don't know if what do you think about this flying scene? Does it work for you?
No,
I didn't like it either.
Okay. It's broken up in two halves.
Yeah.
The first part where he kind of learns, where he crashes, learns to fly, and then this part where he's kind of basking in it. This second part is okay, but it's kind of ruined by the first part. In the original movie, of course, he just kind of takes off, and if there is a learning curve, we don't see it. In this, he's never flown before, and he figures it out in a couple seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well have not had him figure it out. Just have him do it.
Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, I thought the scene was a little unnecessary, and Superman is always flying supersonic in this movie. When he takes off, it's always boom, boom. It's like, okay, he doesn't just take off gently like Reeve did. It's like, you might want to stand back. I'm like,
no, and he can. He just chooses not to.
Yeah, right.
He chooses to power blast right up.
So this is the guy this is Pete, right?
This is Pete.
Grown
up Pete Ross.
Did Pete work at an IHOP in the comic book too?
Not that I'm aware.
I hate this shot
Kent.
because the exact same shot was almost in Superman Returns.
It was,
and
it was.
I hated that shot, and I was like, that is such a setup shot. It makes me
It
want to
is.
vomit. And then they just did it again. I'm like, do the Kents have to have such a gigantic mailbox with their fucking name on it to let us know that it's their fucking house? No.
I got it.
Stop
I got it.
fucking showing their goddamn mailbox. Like, get the fuck over it. Jesus Christ. Don't copy anything from that piece of shit movie. Sorry, I was really angry. I'll stop. I didn't like this moment was okay, except for that look right there.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy.
It's kind of it's too staged.
I don't mind their exchange,
It's like, you found me.
but the way it plays in the movie doesn't work for me.
It's like, why is he wearing? You're not a celebrity. Take off the hat. Nobody knows who you are.
That's the thing. He grew up here. You know,
Yeah,
people know who he is.
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, I knew if I turned over enough stones, you'd find me. Well, what stones? She talked to the people he worked with who didn't know his real name. How the hell she connected to Pete Ross is beyond me, because he's been using false identities everywhere he's gone. So how the hell did she connect him to Smallville? You tell me that. How did she get to...
She's a brilliant journalist.
Brilliant. She's a mind reader.
This is where
there's
he does.
nothing. Yeah, this is where I liked this scene.
Did you really?
I didn't know that Jonathan was not going to die of a heart attack in this.
I didn't. Well, when it came, it didn't surprise me considering everything else was being changed. But
Well, no, it didn't surprise me. But
I felt like, again, it was just like too much. You know, like the
No, I liked it. I liked it.
Like, you know, when he saves the oil platform at sea, just
Mm-hmm.
too much. You know, this like, oh, it has to be a big, tornado. It's like, couldn't be something a little more simple. You know, it's like, all right.
Well, maybe they could have found a simpler way to do it, but I still.
Well, it says,
was
they had to make a
emotionally
big.
affected
They had to make an action scene out of it. Yeah, I was emotionally affected too, but I just felt like it was too much. Just a little bit.
I still the moment when Costner puts out his hand to stop him.
Yeah, that's a good.
I
moment.
that gave me chills. The music hits just right, and
Mm-hmm.
Costner, he's good. You know, he knows how to do
he's
shit like
Costner,
this.
Yeah.
You know, he sells it. You know, Costner as Jonathan Kent is only on screen for probably a total of 10 minutes. You add it all up.
Yeah.
And I found he was Jonathan Kent to me. And especially when this moment came, I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Glenn Ford, he's only on screen for like 5 minutes. And yet, you're just like, can you be my dad? You're awesome. You know?
Yeah, but this movie.
Where's Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton?
Yeah, where the cows.
Where's the cows?
But that's no moon. It's a space station. This movie doesn't have, because you were talking about him being too angsty. The relationship between father and son in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean Jonathan Kent, not Jor-El. But it's not. It doesn't have the same feel.
No, it doesn't. And see, this is kind of what I was trying to get to before. I was just kind of losing my train of thought. He's portrayed as very angst-ridden, but if you kind of think about it, why? It's not like he let those kids in the bus die. If he had let them die...
I mean, is it because of this moment that this is where the angst comes out of, or was he angsty even before this?
No, he was angsty as a kid. Cause
maybe just this intensified it,
This... It doesn't add up. His character motivations are a little too strong for what goes on.
That is a good moment. You're right.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
He sells it on his face. Yeah.
It's really good. The unfortunate
That's good. They
thing
just
is
show him kind of dissolve into
just
it,
disappear,
not
yeah.
fly away or anything like that.
Unfortunately, just like with the scene with the trucker,
I'm glad they didn't have him scream, "No!" At least he screamed, "Dad!"
yeah.
Not.
But there's no reason that scene, as much as I enjoyed it emotionally, there's no reason that scene had to happen, because, Jonathan tells him, take your mother, go to the overpass. I really would have liked it if he had said, no, you take care of all these people, make sure they are safe. I'll go get the damn dog.
Yeah, right.
You take care of all the people. He doesn't say that. I wish he did. But nevertheless, there's no reason why Clark couldn't have got the dog and got back to that overpass without exposing his powers. You know, I don't think they did a good enough
And you
job.
wouldn't want us exposing ourselves.
I don't think they did a good enough job in that scene setting up why Jonathan needed to do it versus Clark, because Clark could have done what needed to be done and not expose himself.
You're absolutely right, because I had the same idea. I was like, well...
Like, Jonathan died for nothing.
Yeah, I know. I had the same thought, but it was the scene was obviously set up to sacrifice somebody.
Yes,
and I understood that, but I felt that I was like, they didn't. You're right. They didn't explain the circumstances enough. He could have easily have used his powers without anybody seeing or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't. Really...
Well, I mean, he just could have gone and got the dog, and if something hit him, it wouldn't have hurt him, and probably no one really would have thought too much. They would have thought, oh, it didn't really hit him, Yeah. Just whatever. It did need to happen that way. They should have written it better, really. I could do without those little inserts
like that.
The Norman Rockwell shots.
Yeah, to remind us that we're on a farm.
Yeah, and we're in sweet old Kansas.
Could have just cut right to her. Yeah.
There's a Lexacorp truck.
Oh, I didn't even...
But where is he being dropped off from? He's already in Smallville. He was just talking to Lois at his father's gravesite. Why the hell did he need to get a ride?
Well, maybe it's
he's acting like he just got in town. You're telling me he came to town first and went and found Lois before he saw his mother?
I guess
I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't look right if he just flew here. You know what I mean?
No, he wouldn't. He doesn't. He should have just ran. In either case, it doesn't make sense. I think they... we're discovering some of putting this movie together in editing because it doesn't make sense. The geography of where he is and how things are happening because of their flashback structure, it's kind of messing things up.
I didn't feel like they handled this scene incredibly well.
No, it was a little
flat.
It's
just too...
Her reaction
Her reaction is, well, she has a reason for reacting the way she does.
Good for you.
No, but it's just like it's taking place. He discovered his origin, and it's taking place on their porch. And
I didn't have a problem with that.
It turned the conversation into the ordinary almost. It's like, I found my people. Oh, that's great. So what else you been doing? That kind of it has that kind of
very
feeling.
Glossed over.
Yeah,
she immediately starts talking about, I feel like I'm going to lose you, and tells
it's
about
like,
how he was learning how to breathe.
he just told her, I know why I'm Superman, and
she doesn't ask, well, what's it called?
What planet I'm from? I know why I have superpowers.
Are they still alive?
Yeah.
She doesn't ask anything.
Yeah, it's just all kind of, you think she would be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I mean, that's no
Let's
different.
Let's go inside,
he is an adopted child. That's no different than him saying, he did. He seeked out and found his bio parents. Any adoptive parent would be like, well, where are they? Are they coming?
Yeah.
Are we going to meet him? Doesn't ask anything. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Not at all.
Could have used some work, that scene. And that's what I do think Zack Snyder as a director falls a little short in scenes like that. He seems to not entirely get the heart
in some cases, I guess.
Not
in all. Well, I mean, I remember plenty of scenes in Watchmen when
that's not his material. This is original material. He was doing the comic book. Anything there was in the comic. This, he was just bringing it to the screen.
Well,
but this is different.
He's adapting somebody else's written words. That's kind of what he's doing right here.
Yeah, but at least in that, in a comic book, they have more time to do things like that. A script is obviously short. They've got a certain amount of time to work with, and you have to know how to do that on screen when it's not already produced on the page. I mean, when he took scenes from Watchmen that had heart, those take pages and pages, in comic form. That scene would have taken a couple pages just of dialogue, very fast, very fast. You have to know how to use that, and I don't think he did it quite effectively. That scene is a good example of how he completely missed what should have been happening in that scene.
Well, I think it's not just it wasn't just his doing. It was the writing too.
Well, it's the writing too. David Goyer wrote it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but he's the director. He has to go, hey, take another pass at that, dude. It's not working. Yeah.
I don't know if I care for these artificial zoom. Well, not artificial, just the zooms.
No, I don't like it.
It's put in there because it's kind of the hip thing to do nowadays.
It's supposed to make it feel real.
And I don't like it. And I'm like, just don't cop that style. Just don't, you know. BSG did it all over the place, and that was fine.
Yeah.
But don't do it in Superman. It just it doesn't.
And the shaky cam and all that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. You know, it's just the style of the day. You know, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
This is like Close Encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah. This I didn't really like that much. You are not alone. You know, this on the TV.
And it doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean?
Because,
how would he know that they don't even know they're not alone?
well,
I mean, how would
first
he
of
know?
all, how the hell does he know that Kal-El's even here? He says later that they detected the distress call from the ship when he activated it. But for all he knows, the humans found a way to activate the damn ship. He doesn't know Kal-El's here. And this "you are not alone" thing. I mean, I guess he's trying to say that. He's not really saying that to Clark. He's saying it to the people of Earth. He's trying to look
That's what I said.
like a benefactor. But then
that's what I meant. But
speech,
that's what I meant. He said, "You are not alone." He doesn't know that Earthlings don't know that. You know, he doesn't. He has no idea.
Well, I guess that's true. But then also, you know, he does that. Like, usually that's what aliens say when they're trying to lull you into a false sense of security.
Well, I mean, thank God he didn't say "I come in peace." But I mean,
because in this same speech, he goes, "Turn this guy over, or I'm going to kill you." You know, I mean, he's a bad guy, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, why disguise his image like this? What's the point? You know, Zod's not one for this kind of crap. Not really. He would just land his ship right in the biggest public place and say, "This is who I am. Give me this guy."
I mean, I would picture the Terrence Stamp Zod doing that. I don't know about this Zod.
This Zod is blunt. He's not theatric.
That's what I mean. That's why if it was Terrence Stamp, I would see him like, "Oh yeah, just show me. I don't need to do this garbage." You know, I love being on the camera, but this guy, I mean, this is obviously being done on purpose, but you know, it feels
it's too calculated. And to me, Zod is a blunt instrument. He doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's too cryptic. It's too, you know, the fact that he's not even revealing his appearance. It's not Zod, in my opinion. Not the Zod they show in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't do that. I mean, when he assassinated his own council, he walked in, had no problem showing who he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about these humans. They mean nothing to him.
And I think that she's the one that we should be questioning.
Well, hold on. You're saying Lois Lane...
Hello?
That guy on screen was trying to say Lois Lane knows who this guy is.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah, but she doesn't. That guy, Woodburn, has no idea that Lois Lane, after the events in the Arctic that he knows about because she wrote the article and gave it to him, he has no idea that after that she went digging around and found out that Clark Kent is Superman. Or, you know, the alien.
Well, because she let me remind me again. I mean, when she initially met him in that bar, right? She was giving him an article that Perry White refused to publish, right?
Right, and it was the article of what happened in the Arctic.
Yeah, but nothing about a Superman or anything like that.
Well, no, she said all about that, about this mysterious guy. But the point is she encountered him.
So I mean, but it said in there that she didn't know his identity or anything like that.
Well, yeah, because his identity was fake.
Yeah, right.
So she has no idea who he really is. She just met him, but she doesn't know who he is any more than anyone else.
I guess you can, look at that in a number of different ways. You could look at this Woodman. Is that what you said? Woodburn. You could look at Woodburn as just being full of crap, and he just wants the publicity himself. Going, oh yeah, she knows. He could be, just saying that just to get on the air.
Well,
maybe he's just saying that. Oh yeah, she knows. He's not really. He's media hungry. He wants to get on CNN or whatever.
I don't think we should have seen this flashback scene after Jonathan dies.
Yeah, I felt that this was kind of out of place when I first saw it. I was just like, wait a minute, shouldn't these flashbacks be done? Because him dying should have capped that whole thing off. That whole sequence of events. So when I saw him alive again, With this, I was just like, wait a second, this should be done. We've seen the impetus of what turned him into the man he is, his father dying, right?
Yeah, now we're going back.
And now we're going back
what?
for what? And I was
so
like,
he can basically repeat himself.
Yeah, it just felt a little really out of place.
Now,
The scene by itself,
the scene
the scene itself is fine.
It's just out of place.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been there.
It should have been in a different spot. That's what I'm saying, that the flashback structure doesn't entirely work in this.
Yeah.
Make you feel any better?
Do you think Jonathan Kent at some point plowed into his fields and built a baseball field?
Well, if you build it.
He did come.
Yeah.
So, maybe.
And I don't think he'll ever ease his pain, but he did go the distance.
I did not care for this scene.
Oh, where he goes to church?
With the priest, because this scene is exactly what I'm talking about. He doesn't know what to do. He's unsure if he should turn himself over to Zod.
Right.
This is what I mean. He's conflicted. This element of his personality would not be conflicted. He would know without having to talk to a priest that he should just turn himself in because it's the right thing to do. Now, yeah, he says, I mean, we know this. He's not saying anything that is not unknown. He says to the priest, well, just because I turned myself in doesn't mean that Zod's going to honor his word, but if there's a chance, shouldn't I take it? Yeah, we know that. You're Superman, dude. You're Clark Kent. You're going to turn yourself in anyway. That's the good boy nature about him, where he would sacrifice himself without question. This Clark right now is questioning what to do. He wouldn't do that. This is the angsty stuff that's overriding the good boy stuff. He can still have angst, but in a moment like that, he wouldn't blink, and he would put himself up on the block. So I don't like that. That to me weakens his moral center.
Mm-hmm.
He had to think about it. Why?
You make a good point. Well, I mean, because the way this movie portrays his only options, I don't really care for this scene either. But
this,
yeah, he's looking.
I thought this was alright.
Nah, it's with all these army tanks and what. He looks too menacing. Him floating there. Why can't he just be on the ground? But just come down on the ground to talk to him. I mean, he's talking to him like he's a god.
Yes,
it's just
good point.
Like, come down to the ground. Jesus, you're trying not to be intimidating. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but his quandary is, at least
I'm going to ask you a series of
control questions. I thought of the same. The room looks exactly the same.
I know, it really does.
Day of the Earth Stood Still for anybody who cares, but the remake.
Yeah.
The quandary that he has in this movie, right, is that he can either turn himself over to Zod or just fight Zod. That's it, right?
Well, not really.
Isn't that what he's deciding? He's like, okay, I need to.
No, he's only
Zod
deciding to turn himself over.
What's his other option? Just to stay in hiding? Is that what he was telling the priest? Because the way I saw the scene was that he was deciding, like, the decision was whether or not he could trust Zod. If he turned himself over, he would leave Earth alone. That's what he was wondering.
Well, he ultimately turns himself over to mankind and lets mankind decide.
Well, no,
whether or not
that's what I thought he was deciding. He's like, well, if I turn myself over, because he knows that he is the only hope for mankind. No one can stop Zod and the rest of the Supermen but him, the rest of the Kryptonians. So he knows that it's like, okay, well, his decision was, can Zod be trusted? If I turn myself over, will he leave these people alone? Because if he decides not to trust him, that means he has to fight him, which means there could be collateral damage.
Which there was anyway.
But that's what I thought his decision was. So his decision was never about not to help them. It was just like, can I trust Zod? Is he trustworthy?
But it doesn't matter, because Zod was saying, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to hurt these people. So there's no choice. It's just do it. And that's why I don't like to see him debate, because there's no debate. He has to do it. His character, his moral character, would not allow for the question. It would go, okay, well, that's it. You're not giving me a choice. I have to do it, period. And also, I kind of don't like the way they play this, to where he turns himself over to mankind and lets mankind decide whether or not they will turn him over to Zod. He's giving them the power, which I don't mind that in theory, but it also makes the humans look like douchebags because they do turn him over. They don't know him. Yeah, I understand they're being threatened, but if and mind you, the humans don't know what Zod is capable of, so we kind of turn tail and cower very, very fast.
Am I missing something here? What was this intimate moment I just missed?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't have happened. But second of all,
there was something going on screen that, without the benefit of sound, when you're watching,
they were just talking. He was saying, thanks for believing in me.
Well, she seemed very,
she's like she's crying, like emotional over it. She barely knows.
That's
him.
what I mean. I was just like, why is she so upset? Why is she so moved? I don't understand. Right. She doesn't know him. We
don't know. The thing is there's a lot of unanswered questions here. For all the human beings know in this movie, Zod is the good guy. We don't know. Zod could be searching for an escaped prisoner who's hiding on Earth. We don't know. Yes, he presents. He's wearing black and he's kind of dark and sinister. But for all we know, the humans know he could be the good guy. He could be the police. But if someone from a foreign power that we don't have the best relations with. Oh, I love that chick. Look at that look. If some guy from, Iraq was found to be hiding out in the States and, a big, Iraqi ship or something came to the shores of America and said, hey, one of our people is hiding out there. Turn him over or I'm going to launch an arsenal of weapons at you. If that person then made himself known to the government of the States, our first reaction would not be to just give him to them. Our reaction would be kind of like what they do in Star Trek usually, when someone basically says, oh, yeah, can you help me?
How geeky is that? I was thinking of Star Trek.
They would say, you know what? Maybe we'll give him to you, but tell us what's going on. Who are you, and why do you want this person?
Well,
you're threatening
that
us.
happened in the episode with the guy, the guy who was almost William Riker, the actor.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
The outrageous Acuna.
Yeah, they weren't saying they wouldn't turn him over. They were just saying, we're not going to turn him over until you tell us what's going on, because we're not just going to hand someone to their doom, potentially, until we know what's going on. And so I think it makes the humans, the government in this, kind of look like dicks, because we just, first of all, we cowered, and we had no reason to. Yeah, sure, it's an alien, but we don't know what he's capable of. He could be, they've got one ship. Why should we cower as a whole world? To this guy. He hasn't done anything to show that he could obliterate us. You know what I mean? And then really the first interaction that we have with a Kryptonian is with Kal-El, and he seems like a pretty straight up guy. And our first reaction as a world to these aliens is to hand over what apparently is a good guy to an apparently bad guy. Doesn't portray us very well. I think there's a lot of holes in that, and that they needed to work it out.
There should be cause for celebration.
Well, it's still better than Superman.
And even Kal-El, when he goes to talk to the priest, he's like, I don't know if I can trust Zod, and I don't know if I can trust humanity either. Superman has always been a champion of humanity. In fact, Jor-El is more of a champion of humanity than Kal-El is. Like I said, Jor-El keeps pushing on him. These are a good people. They just need your light, to show the way, to paraphrase. But that's not the attitude that Kal-El has. Now, granted, he's lived with them and Jor-El hasn't, but it's I'm not saying it's so much bad. It's just that they left a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of holes. And given that this movie ends with him essentially, kind of being the Superman persona that we know, where the cape and, working at the planet and all that, I don't feel any of those things were resolved. to get us to that end point.
In return for my efforts to protect our civilization and save our planet.
Why don't you go ahead
And
talk?
I didn't like this scene either.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk about this scene? I'll be back in a moment.
All right, well, this scene here is, we don't know what's going on right now. We find out later that Zod has kind of like jacked into his mind, Matrix style, and he's kind of trying to lull Kal-El into a false sense of security, so he'll just give up the Codex. He's assuming that Clark even knows what the Codex are, and because he's in Kal-El's mind, that's why we're in Smallville, because he knows his identity as being Clark Kent. He knows all of that because he's in his head. There's no secret. That's why Zod is able to go to the Kent farm very shortly. But he monologues. You know, we get the backstory of what happened to Zod and his people after Krypton exploded and they came out of stasis / Phantom Zone. But I also think that this there's a couple problems with Zod's motivation here, and that's one of them is that he's telling us right now that he and his people spent approximately 30-some years finding the old Kryptonian outposts, finding ships exactly like the one that Clark found on Earth that have birthing chambers and everything. Those are useless to him without the Codex. Okay, fine. So he gets a distress call or something from the ship, and he comes to Earth believing that that's where Kal-El went, therefore there are the Codex. Okay. He wants the Codex. He then proceeds to tell Clark right here that he's going to rebuild Krypton here on Earth. But there's actually no reason for that. There's no reason for Zod to use the ship or any of the ships that he found and the Codex, assuming Clark gave it to them, on Earth. He has a world engine, and he starts using it, and the Earth scientists point out that they're terraforming the planet. There's just no reason why Zod had to terraform Earth.
So you're talking about the problem with
Zod's
motivation?
intentions here, and that it doesn't make sense because he wants to transform Earth into Krypton. And he also explained that when they got out of the Phantom Zone, they went searching for the old Kryptonian outposts, which, as we know, were ships launched from Krypton, just like the one that Kal-El found on Earth. So he's found a bunch of those other ships all throughout the galaxy with birthing chambers that he would need to produce another Kryptonian society. But they're useless without the Codex. Mm-hmm. And he has a world engine that can terraform a world to look and feel like Krypton. Great. He's got everything he needs. There's no reason it has to be done on Earth. Mm-hmm. He could go to Mars and terraform Mars. He could go to another... he's clearly been to other planets where those ships were. He could terraform one of those. He doesn't need to commit genocide in order to do it. What does he care? He could go to another galaxy and the people of Earth are nothing. It means nothing. The fact that he wants to do it on Earth is the only reason why Superman needs to confront him. You know, the Codex
the only
were
reason
intended.
the only reason he's doing it on Earth is just because that's where he found the Codex. I mean, he could.
Right, but he doesn't need to do it there.
Well, no, but
that's all Superman has to say is, why are you doing it here?
Well, I think. Well, yeah, of course. If he did say that, that would, of course,
the movie's over.
The movie's over because.
But then they should have explained.
Well, because that would just be. That's something that everyone needs to say, but that's just something that isn't said. It's like, well, why does he need to do it here? But it's not said. It needs to be said, but it's not. It's
a big hole, though. They should have made a reason why it had to be Earth or something.
Yeah, they should have.
And also, he wants the Codex, right?
Yeah.
Now at this point, Clark doesn't know what the hell the Codex are. You know, he has no idea that they're in him. I don't think at this point. I think he finds out a little later. But nevertheless, why wouldn't he want Zod to have them? Assuming Zod would take them to another planet, terraform that planet, and recreate Krypton, dude, go. Why not? You know, there's no reason why everyone can't win. in this situation. Jor-El gave Clark the Codex so that the Codex would survive, because it looked like the Kryptonian Council was just everything was going to be lost. So he put the Codex on Kal-El's ship so they would survive. Okay, great. The intention, of course, was that they would be used. Zod wants to use them. Clark has no idea that Zod wanted to remove the degenerative bloodlines that led them to this state. He doesn't know that, so there's no reason in the world why Zod shouldn't take those Codex and go do it. They even say that Clark doesn't need to be, it doesn't matter if he's dead or alive, they can extract the Codex from him. So let them take him. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
Can you help us?
And that's frustrating, because that's a huge hole. And if they wanted to find a way to pigeonhole it to Earth, it would have just taken a couple lines of dialogue, but they didn't do it.
And in turn, you can teach Cal. Will you help them?
I do like how they explain the meaning of the S.
Oh yeah, finally,
I don't
on screen.
Yeah, I
mean,
don't
in the
recall
comics.
them.
It's always been known.
I had no idea because I don't read the comics. But as they talked about the S, I was like, oh, is that what it's for? Because I never thought about it. It was interesting the way they did it. He said, well, on my planet, it means hope. He's like, well, here, it's an S. I'm like, well,
in the comics, it's always been known that was the symbol of his family.
Okay.
Just like Zod has one on his chest that means his family crest.
Yeah, I mean, you see different,
and they show it in the originals. They just
they just don't say anything about it.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. It was nice that they actually mentioned it in dialogue. It's like, this is
this nice.
represents something else. That was nice.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to actually finally have it in dialogue on screen.
This is when the movie kind of becomes all action for the most part.
Yeah,
it's pretty much wall-to-wall action till the end of the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it kind of got a little dull for me, because it's fine. It's good action. It's just too much, It just gets a little dull after a while.
Now, I actually cannot recall why the Zod's forces wanted Lois. When they go to pick up Superman, they say, we want that woman too. But why? Why?
I thought I was going to ask you the same question, but
there's no reason.
I don't recall.
Her only connection to Clark, to Superman, is that she wrote that article. Do you really think that Zod and his people perused the newspapers?
Yeah.
No, there's no reason
they
in the
like
world
to do the
they would even know who Lois Lane is.
They like to do the Daily Planet crossword.
Yeah, not going to happen. There's no reason Lois should be on that ship. None.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you. I just didn't want to sound stupid because I've forgotten.
No,
because, I've forgotten some of the plot details of the movie. And so I was like, well, maybe I just forgot and whatever.
Nope. It's another hole.
So that one day, when the time was right.
That's kind of more of an egregious hole if it's actually true.
Well, it is.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you just forgot maybe.
No, they give no reason
as
to how, Zod connects her to him. There's just nothing. And again, our government, our military looks like douchebags, because Christopher Maloney, his character, he does step up and go, wait a second, you wanted the alien. You never said anything about one of our own. And she goes, and Feora, his right-hand girl, says, do you want me to go back and tell him you said no? And he said, I don't give a shit what you tell him. And there's this little standoff, and then Lois says, no, it's okay, I'll go with him. And our government just turns over another person. This one is actually a human. It's like, God, do we have any balls?
Yeah.
I don't like that. And again,
well, no, they did say
there's no reason why they asked.
Well, she
for
did
her.
volunteer for that, but you're right.
Yes, she volunteered, and that's all wonderful. But still, we're not given any explanation as an audience as to why they wanted Lois. None. They've got Superman. That's all they need. And again, they don't know who Lois is. How would they?
Where did this come from? Oh, these are... Okay, never mind. I thought it was something else. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought Superman, brought those ships over there. I forgot that that's not Superman right there.
No.
Okay.
Are you all right?
Now,
That was
of course,
a
one
little
of
romanticized, but it's okay.
well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big differences in this movie versus the originals is that this movie, pretty much from the middle of the movie on, she is aware that Clark Kent is the alien and then Superman. She knows this.
Shoeless Joe Jackson's about to pop out. Is this heaven?
No, it's Iowa. And that's a part of it I like. So that when
You see, she called him Clark, you know?
yeah,
And
because
to
she
me,
knows he's Clark.
I know. But I know that in the Superman world, she can't tell the difference between Superman and Clark Kent. But to me, it seems like people are intelligent in this movie, and that she would be able to tell the difference between the two. It's the same guy. Really?
Well, she knows that. Hello.
No, I know, but I mean, are they going to play it off that way when he goes to work at the Daily Planet?
This was what I'm getting at. When he
Okay.
goes to the planet at the end, you did finish the movie, didn't you?
Yeah, sort of. I
It
guess
doesn't sound like it because
Okay.
at the end of the movie, when he goes to the Daily Planet,
Yeah, he walks in
and he puts
she
on the
says-
glasses. She knows who he is.
Oh, she does. Okay,
Yes,
maybe I
she's
didn't-
not dumb.
I wasn't.
They introduce him as Clark Kent. She knows that Clark Kent. She knows it's him, and she just smiles. He smiles back. It's like
Okay.
this is the secret now that she knows from day one.
Okay, well,
and I like that.
Okay, I'll be honest. I didn't really watch the ending
I
per
didn't
se,
think so.
so I was
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't think you did.
Okay.
If you did, you wouldn't have asked. So yeah. So
I
this
mean, I
movie
had it on
ends-
in the background. I wasn't actually paying attention, but okay.
No, it ends. It starts him at the Daily Planet with her fully knowing, Superman and Clark Kent, which is good because, like you said, she's not stupid, and she's
Yeah.
one of the few people though that gets to see both people close up.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's understandable that
this
that
is-
disguise is enough for other people.
I didn't like this setting.
Have it? I know it seems very small.
It's
Now,
like
granted, they end up in Metropolis.
I know, but they're on
anyway.
this little
Epic.
street corner. It's like,
Yeah,
come on,
I
you
didn't like that.
It's like when they go to Houston,
Houston. I know exactly.
and they're in
I had
that
the
little
same
town.
thought.
I'm like, get out of this town, please. This is boring. I don't care
I
if
know,
they have a wide
I had
selection.
the exact same thought, and I don't want to see in the background 7-Eleven or whatever. It seems very mundane.
Yeah. It's just it's no good. No good.
I would have rather have this been in the cornfields than actually on a little street.
Yeah.
Because that places it, and I don't like that, and it feels small.
Yeah.
I don't literally Superman gets thrown into IHOP. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, and I know.
That just seems
See, like
wrong.
7-Eleven back. It's just it's. I think of Slurpees when I'm watching this, and I shouldn't be thinking
exactly,
of that.
exactly.
It's no good.
I think about,
Dumb and Dumber.
No. Lloyd Dobler walking Diane Court home, the night after the party from 7-Eleven.
Watch out for that glass.
Exactly. I have too many other images, and this just feels so small.
Yeah.
Now this was, to me, they were clearly trying to reference Ursa and Non from Superman 2, because Feora is all over this movie.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's never given a name, but they're together, so it's like Ursa and Non.
Oh, I
in
see.
Superman 2.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
He's just some big guy, and this guy's huge.
Just some guy, some big guy, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose.
What do you think about the action itself in this scene?
Like I said, the movie's just it's wall-to-wall action, and I'm sorry, a lot of action these days is boring because they all do it in this exact same way, and it's all this CG action. It's boring. It's quick moving camera and everything like that. It's boring to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. It's not the same in every movie. I remember there being plenty of good action in the Batman films, in the Nolan Batman films, that were practical. They weren't shaky cam or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were
True.
good.
But of course, those weren't superpowered people either.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I just have.
These are super powered people. I mean, they have to make it big.
Well, they did. They had superpowered people in the Donner films.
Yeah, but the action was pretty limited. You know?
I know. This just feels, I don't know. See, IHOP. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or what you mean? Yeah, that's just silly.
And, they make the point. I mean, they give us screen time of Pete seeing him seeing Pete, and they give each other a look. But it's like, dude, if you're gonna take us out of the fight for a moment, at least have him go, Pete?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, you've gone that far,
I don't want to see in Superman film in the screenplay interior IHOP.
No, I don't.
No,
or
it's just,
exterior IHOP.
Yeah, just like fight takes place in an IHOP. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's run with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Zack Snyder handed the script and it says interior IHOP, I scratch it out with a red pen and put anywhere fucking else.
Interior anywhere else, USA.
Yeah. Have that be in a bank, for shit's sake. Anywhere but a goddamn IHOP.
Yeah.
No, yeah, this unfortunately turns into a big, giant CG fest.
Mm-hmm.
And, despite what I just said about the fact that these are superhero, superpowered people and their action has to be bigger than life, at the same time, it has to feel real. And no matter how good the CG is, and some of the CG is good, it's still CG and we know it. Mm-hmm. There's just no replacement for, like that right there, that shot of the non-type characters, pushing Superman against the ground and all that. They could have found a way to make more of that practical. But our eye knows that is essentially a cartoon. Mm-hmm. And it looks different, the lighting's different. Every time they cut from a CG version to the real people, you can tell. I'm not saying it's bad looking, but you can tell. And it removes some of the threat, And also, and this has been my beef with, a lot of the portrayals of Superman, they make him too powerful. They're being thrown through buildings and all of that stuff. Let me show him bleed. He's not completely invulnerable. He's just extremely tough. But if he gets hit with a train, and he does, I want to see that train have an effect on him. Show me that he has limits. He's just extremely, extremely powerful. But if we don't see him, we don't even see his hair messed up. There's absolutely no threat.
He does never have a hair out of place. That's a good point.
But if we see the non-type character, slide him onto the ground and start beating him, if we see blood on him, which should be there because it's someone of equal strength and physical build to him, he should draw blood. Mm-hmm. Then I will believe that Superman Kal-El is in danger, but I don't think he's in danger. Because none of them show any battle damage. If you punch me in the face, I'm either going to bleed or my face is going to swell up, something. Just because these guys are, quote unquote, men of steel, that's still steel on steel. There's going to be an effect. Mm-hmm. And we should see that. When in Super, I say it like this is a remake. It kind of is, though.
You said in 1 and 2 rolled into 1.
Yeah, in Superman 2, God, I just love this chick. See, look at that.
Well,
that's CG. That's CG. Superman punching that guy. Why? Why did that need to be CG? But anyway, when he fights the Kryptonians in Superman 2, we don't necessarily see them bleed, but you do see him out of breath and mm-hmm. When they throw the bus at him, that kind of knocks the wind out of him and it takes it out of him. He may not bleed, but at least he's affected. And I like that. It needs to be done. It shows that he can be hurt, and that amplifies the threat. So I just think we need to see a slightly powered down version of Superman and show that he can be physically affected. It just takes a lot to do it.
Well, I think that would have been really interesting to see if, since this movie's doing so many different looks, different ways of doing Superman. If Superman, say, and the villains, if they showed them bleeding, that would have been an interesting take. Giving this movie a little bit more of a.
The comics, we see Superman bleed all the time.
I had no idea. So I mean, if he did,
his
I think
outfit gets shredded. He bleeds because things can hurt him.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. They probably should have done that. It's a good point. I do like her. She's really pretty, of course, but
she gives great face.
She does. She does. She doesn't have quite the same. It's because she has too much body armor on. She doesn't have that sex appeal, that what's her name? Ursa does,
Sarah Douglas.
Douglas. She doesn't have that. She doesn't act that way either.
Well, true.
But anyway, she is good though. I like her too.
Mm-hmm.
A little corny.
Yeah, now we do something.
It's a little corny, but it's okay.
Of course it is. It's like, and also now we show some balls, and what do we think is going to happen? Now we've actually seen these guys in action, and we know damn well that there's nothing we can do.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that before, though. So the humans just kind of look stupid in this.
At least Superman doesn't end up in the hospital at the end of this movie.
Thank God.
This man is not our enemy.
Not our enemy.
Yeah, no, that's a little corny.
Yeah,
it could have done without the line. Just had them look at each
they
other.
didn't. Just the look should have been.
He just could have said thank you, Colonel, and like, all right, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to say anything. Of course, it has to take place by a Sears.
I know, right?
It just sullied the whole moment.
It did. It really did.
Ugh.
I'm all right.
Thankfully, that photo album survived, so we could see it.
Well, it's not like the place blew up.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
Some things just got smushed. That's
Yeah.
all. Now, what's about to happen here is really friggin' stupid.
Okay, remind me.
Well, you're going to see it. Give it about 30 seconds.
Okay.
I want to see if you... I mean, I just can't believe they did it.
Is he going to try to go to the bathroom with the suit on?
No. It's coming right up.
Okay.
Coming right up.
Isn't that a good thing?
I can't believe you didn't...
About 15 seconds? I just don't remember. Maybe I'll remember.
You're going to see it. You're going to see it.
Okay.
Clark!
Well, the tension is just... The anticipation is incredible. I hope it lasts.
We're on it right now. That right there.
What did she say? I missed the subtitle.
She came running. She was driven there by a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
She came running up, yelled Clark, and said, and mind you, how, I don't know, but we know how to beat them or defeat them or something like that. So essentially, she went to the police station, said, I need to go to the Kent house to go get Superman, and proceeds to yell his name, Clark. So basically, she's blown him. She's blown his identity. For what? And how the hell does she have a plan? She doesn't know dick about the technology involved here. And she's presenting it to him like, I know that your ship has a phantom drive. Their ship has a phantom drive. And if you use them in conjunction, it'll create a singularity and stop them. How the hell does she know any of that? And what business does she have showing up at the damn Kent farm calling out his name with the local popo? That's just not a good idea. She's completely screwed his secret identity.
Mm-hmm.
Just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, what possible knowledge could they have about how to stop them? Is that really what she said?
All she said was, I or we have a plan. Yet in the scene we're about to see here, they get a call.
Okay.
They get a call right here in the scene that says, Christopher Maloney's character is coming to the base with Superman in tow. And then Superman comes to them and says, or I should say Lois tells them, that's the ship he came in. And then Superman tells them, okay, this is a phantom drive, blah, blah, blah. He explains it. But basically, she is privy to knowledge that she would not have. And even if she knew about the ship, which she doesn't, because no one told her about it. He didn't tell her. But even if she knew about the ship, like I said, she doesn't know anything about the technology. What the hell does she have to do with the plan? she wouldn't be anywhere near any of this. You know, her role is done. You know, she's just conveniently being allowed into this area of the military that they would never let her near. Feels like Michael Bay.
A little bit. Well, too many shots of people looking up.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. There's a thing in the sky. All right.
Bring the Phantom Drive online.
Do they? It takes some time before they actually explain what it is they're actually doing right now, don't they?
No, pretty quickly.
Well, it's not till there's a scene in I think it's in NORAD when they say, "Oh, they're terraforming," and somebody actually.
I think it's like in like 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Somebody actually has to say, "What's terraforming?"
Yeah, the girl has to say it.
So we all know what it is.
Like, I know. I guess, you know, you and I we can't assume that everyone.
I know,
has
but
seen
it's
the
just
same sci-fi that we have.
it's just such a bad moment because anyone who's working in NORAD must be at least intelligent to some degree, and they would know what it means. And it's so wrong to have someone like that say that.
I suppose.
I mean, if they had a visitor to NORAD that day who didn't know anything about it, then yeah, that makes sense. But it's her that says it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Working in tandem with their ship. Somehow they're increasing the Earth's mass.
And they give her the last name of Ferris.
Her name is Ferris?
Her last name is Ferris, which some people have pointed out that can't possibly be a coincidence because this is in the DC universe, which of course Green Lantern is part of, and Green Lantern's, you know, girl is I forget her first name, but it's Ferris, and she serves in some form of military or government. So the idea here is that she is that character. So it's, you know, connecting the two, you know, characters' stories.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's just an in thing, you know.
Obviously it is. Like, yeah, sure, all right. Never would have known. Is there a lot of inside stuff like that in the Batman films, in the Nolan Batmans?
Not really.
Okay, so I don't remember picking up on anything or ever.
Yeah, no, not really. It plays it pretty isolated.
Okay.
That craft maxes out 17,000 pounds. We can drop it from a C-17. It's a viable plan.
And if I don't stop that machine over the Indian Ocean, the gravity.
See, it's the Lois just got no business being here at all.
She's just conveniently thrown into the mix. Yeah.
She too conveniently, and it really, really stands out.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean her job is pretty much done at this point. I mean,
It's beyond done.
she was already conveniently taken to the ship for no reason, right? And now she's back, and now she's still with Superman. Yeah. Just to keep her in the plot. Keep her.
Yeah.
In,
And really, they I don't think they tied that together very well.
Yeah.
Nice glory shot.
This.
Yeah.
Didn't they do something very similar in Superman Returns?
They show him flying up and kind of flying towards space, but
Okay, it wasn't like that.
not exactly. But
Superman. At least they didn't do like, you know, a CG ear or something like that. Didn't they do that?
Oh,
when he's like listening to the whole planet,
No,
it's
yeah,
like a
no,
CG.
no,
It's like a CG head or something. It's silly.
no, yeah, I know what you're saying. No, they didn't do that.
But it was a CG ear, right, or something, wasn't it?
CG ear. I don't know what. I mean, they CG'd a lot of Brandon Routh in that they didn't need to.
I remember part of that being CG, and it didn't have to be. That's what Anyway, whatever.
Mm-hmm. See, what the hell is she doing on this plane?
And now she's on the plane. Yeah,
This is a military operation. She is in the way. They are bringing her literally to put that Superman chip in
anybody,
the ship.
and anybody can do that.
Anybody could have done that, and in fact, it doesn't work. And the Emil Hamilton character does it.
Yeah.
There's no reason in the world why she has to be there. And then
you're right.
She proceeds to get thrown out of the plane later. So
yeah, I know.
It's way too convenient.
Yep.
Now this I liked, but unfortunately they put it in here like at an awkward time. But you know when
which one?
Oh, well, this business that he's learning to focus his senses.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
That was a nice little touch, and I like that they did it. I just think they timed it wrong. You know, the idea that, and unfortunately, by them calling attention to it, it actually weakens other parts of the story, because when they're in Smallville and his mask breaks, he's getting all the sounds and he can't control it, and you know he hasn't learned how to master those senses yet, right? So the fight's over. His people come and get him, and they're out of there.
I really wanted to fast forward through this scene.
Yeah, this scene with the tentacle.
Yeah,
wow, this just came out of nowhere, and it was really bad.
Yeah,
it just had no place in the movie. And it was just so obviously there just to give more action.
Yeah, it was just, it's a CG fest, and it's not even that interesting.
And it's even just in the context of the story, it makes no sense, because that's a ship designed to do it has a purpose.
Why does it have a defense mechanism?
Why does it have something like that?
Yeah,
it wouldn't. Anyway, what was the thing?
I lost tabs on it.
Oh yeah, with Zod and his mastering his senses.
Right,
you know, we see him go to take Kal-El's Fortress of Solitude, essentially. He's going to get that, and he doesn't have the mask. He's learning to kind of rein his senses in. And then a little later, when they get to Metropolis, when he's fighting Superman, before he flies...
Why did they just decide to leave the building then? Shouldn't that place have been evacuated already?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of... You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, an alien ship's floating nearby. I think we should leave.
Yeah.
Not till not till they start blowing stuff up. Oh, now it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. We've got Independence Day going on above us. We should not be here.
This was kind of cool to see, these jets being thrown around like toys, you know? Mm-hmm. That was kind of neat. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. Anyway, he's honing his abilities.
And then when they come together in Metropolis here, before we see Zod fly, he explains, he's like, you know... I should say Kal-El first explained to him, you know, I've had a lifetime to master my senses and to control the sights and sounds that our bodies are capable of here. So that's when they're fighting outside of IHOP. And then when they encounter each other here, Zod says, you know, I am a lifelong military guy. I've spent my life learning how to control my senses. So he's basically saying, I've got this, right? And then he levitates, he floats to show that he's mastered flight, you know, and then he proceeds to say, and this is the real kicker, he goes, I spent a lifetime training. Where did you train? On a farm? And then they start fighting. You know, unfortunately, he's dead right. He is a trained military officer. So are all of his people. They would have wiped the floor with Superman. Mm-hmm. You know, they would have. In a fisticuffs fight, he would have leveled Superman because he's a trained soldier. Superman is not.
Yeah, but he is.
If you put me...
Superman has the edge because, at least...
He doesn't have an edge because they've already shown that he has mastered those skills.
Yeah, he's mastered the skills on Earth. They haven't yet.
No, but they're saying that that's the point I'm making, is that Zod says in dialogue, I've worked it out.
Yeah, I know, but
control the hearing, the vision, all.
Yeah, but not all of them have. Just Zod.
Well, it's fine. Even if Zod is the only one that has,
then yeah,
when they fight, Zod would have kicked his ass.
Yes, you're right. Of course, he should have.
And they were better off not saying it because it makes Zod kind of look pathetic. The fact that Superman does beat him, and Superman breaks his neck. You know, Zod would have done that. Do you know how to break someone's neck? I don't. Where do you think? I mean, yeah, sure, I've seen it the same way on TV like anyone else has, but Clark has not been in the military. He's not been trained in how to do that. He just does it like he wouldn't know how to do that. You know, that's important, and they need to call attention to those sorts of things.
Well,
they need to explain.
I don't think you need to know that. I think anybody knows, it's common knowledge. When you twist something enough, it'll break.
Well, still. that's a trained move. You know, you can't just arbitrarily do it. It's not just going to work. You know, and not against someone who's fighting you unless you know what you're doing. And he doesn't know how to do that. Zod would have put him in like some sort of chokehold and knocked his ass out before any of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need all of this. This was too much.
I do like the end of this scene. You know, the moment when Perry White realizes that he can't do anything, and he's
going to stand there with her and hold her hand and be with her and die with her. Yes, I agree.
I like that moment. He's like, all right.
It is a nice little moment, but as a viewer, the first time I saw it, every time they kept cutting back to Perry and those people, I was like, why? You know, they've got bigger things going on.
I was just more bored by this scene. I was just like, all right, get on with it already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just he fought a big tentacle. I'm like, all right, finish, please.
Yeah.
See, you know,
she's adorable, man. Oh, she's cute.
Oh yeah,
she should have been Lois. She's so hot.
You think so?
Oh hell yeah, she's gorgeous.
She's very pretty. I don't know if she has the X factor that Amy Adams has.
Well, maybe not, but she's still gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's why she's in the movie.
And I do like this exchange. It's a
this
beautiful
is good.
Exchange.
That's good.
It just.
They did it without words. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally, someone does some acting without dialogue.
Yeah, they didn't say something like, "I'm staying here." You know.
Thank God.
Yeah, this played it on their eyes. That was good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Impressive CG explosion.
Superman wins. I'm not surprised. All right.
You are cleared hot.
I like this guy, the general guy, the black guy.
Yeah, I've seen him around. He's a character.
Yeah, I've seen him in things here and there, but I like him.
Now, what's going on with this? Whatever the thing she sticks in there. You know,
it's like activates the ship.
Yeah, I know, but it gets stuck or something, and then
something like on the front of the ship was churned, so it wasn't activating. It wasn't being pulled in.
Because I was a bit confused about like, okay, it didn't go in, and then the other guy comes in and pushes it in. I'm like, all right. So
no, but he moves something first. He adjusts part of the ship first, and then everything clicks and locks in, and it goes in.
Okay,
no
maybe I just missed something. Okay.
Yeah. See, this is her sole purpose of being.
Yeah, just stick the thing in the hole. Yeah, that's why you're here.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dudes there who know how to stick things in holes.
Yeah.
They could have handled it. It's supposed to go in all the way. She could have told them that on the ground.
Yeah,
You know, they wouldn't be asking now, what's it supposed to do? You know, they wouldn't just take that for granted. They would ask.
We are lined up for the drop. What's the hold up? Cut a slide center.
There's the see, now this doesn't make sense either. That is the Fortress of Solitude right there. That Zod took it and stole it, and it promptly crashes. So that means at the end of this movie, he doesn't have a Fortress of Solitude.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of don't like that.
There's no crystals in this movie either.
Well, I don't care about that. Yeah, I mean that's no big. Like I said, that's
you
that's
don't care?
creation.
I mean, I don't know how deep.
No, that's a Donner thing.
That's a Donner thing. Well, I thought the crystals were a Superman thing in general.
Well, I should say I meant like
at least
the design of everything being crystals. Him having devices like that. I mean,
there was the green crystal. I'm talking about.
I have not seen any other incarnation of Superman where it was exactly that kind of thing. The exact crystals.
Okay.
He would have devices that would project Jor-El or whatever, but. The design that you're thinking of from the Donner movies, I think, was pretty unique to the Donner universe.
Well, thank God.
Of course, they got mimicked later in other versions, but
okay.
I think that specific design, I believe, originated with. See, look, he's going to adjust it in a second.
Oh, okay. Well, thank God they just didn't do kryptonite.
Oh yeah, Zack Snyder was very open about that. He told people before the movie came out, he's like, I'll tell you straight up, we're not doing kryptonite. And most people were like, thank God.
Yeah, it's like, that's done.
Yeah, that's done to death. We don't need it.
Well, that's I always thought that's Clark finding that crystal in his barn, in the first one. I always kind of thought that was...
Well, that little black thing, that
tradition.
little thing that he's trying to push in, that's essentially the crystal in this movie. I mean...
I guess.
Pa Kent gives it to him.
Yeah, I guess
it was
you're right.
in the barn.
I guess it's just... I'm just so used to it being the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Could have done without that line, but it's okay.
What, the...
Good death is its own reward.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's a one-liner. It's a cheesy one-liner.
But, he's referencing what she said to him.
I know it. I know, but still, it's just...
And I like that they have almost like a little warrior's respect for each other. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like they almost have this mini romance between them.
It's very small, a very short one. Yeah, very, very, very terse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they created a singularity.
Yes.
Okay. And why isn't she pulled into it?
That's a good question. Little pieces of rock are being sucked up, but she's somehow managing to fall through it. Cars are being pulled up, but she's going through it. Mm-hmm. Stupid. Every time he does something exerting, he screams. He's about to do it. When the tower thing on the oil rig fell, he was holding it going. Whenever he flies really fast, it's
Superman's not allowed to grunt.
If he didn't do it every time, it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. That's like the end scene of Volcano or something.
That's a beef a lot of people have had with this movie.
What?
Is that the sheer amount of people that had to have died as a result of this conflict.
I guess I didn't see this.
Dude,
scene.
Look at that.
I know.
It looks like 9/11 times 10.
No, it does. It does. I guess I just forgot about this scene right here where they kissed. Maybe I didn't see that when I first watched this movie.
It's a bad line. It's a very bad line.
They say it's downhill after the first kiss.
And he says, I think that only applies to humans. Wow. Just doesn't work.
Why
at
would?
all.
Okay, that's too much. That was bad. That was
the line?
The whole kissing was actually really bad.
Well,
I didn't see it before. I could understand. It would have been nice if, when they land, she just gives him a thank you kiss, and they give each other a look.
No, but they full on
But they full on go for it, and then they talk, and then they go at it again. That was a little too strong. They shouldn't be. No, that's too much. Oh, I forgot he still has to kill Zod.
Yeah. See, now all of this destruction, man, we're talking thousands and thousands of people are dead. All because Zod was trying to get to Superman. If Superman had just flown himself to a remote part of the world, at least this conflict would have happened outside of, a civilian populated area. But, of course it has to happen in Metropolis, and many, many people have died because of Superman's poor decision-making in this movie.
Yeah, isn't it like... Well, no, I guess it's not quite the same. I mean, I was thinking in the end of Superman 2 when he he left the scene, but he was more doing that, I guess, to save the people of Metropolis, but also he knew he needed to face them on his own terms. I guess that doesn't quite apply. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, when he leaves Metropolis... Now, in Superman, at least in Superman 2, the bad guys were there first, and he went there to challenge them. He did his best to kind of draw them away, but, I mean, they're not stupid, and they knew they had kind of an advantage there because they could have all the people to threaten. This is a little different, and they want him. They need him. He could have just gone to a different area, and they would have followed him. So I don't like that.
Do you think this is just too much action? At the end, it's just too much. I mean, look at this. They're fighting in a collapsing building. Is this a little?
I
too much?
think it's too much visually going on. Like look at this building. People are in those buildings still. They're dying right now.
Yeah.
This is destruction on an incredible level. All because he's not thinking and he's not leaving the area. LexCorp.
Yep.
I think the action is too dynamic and we can't relate to it. So again, the threat is kind of gone. To reference the Avengers, that they fight in almost an identical setting, but it feels a little more. You can connect to it a little more.
You're absolutely right. Zod should have been able to kill him.
Oh, he would have been wiping the floor with him right now.
Yeah, because Superman isn't. He's not a trained soldier of any kind.
Nope.
Who trained him how to fight?
He's a farm boy.
Exactly. He's Zod is a general. He's been in the military all his life. Yeah, he should have.
He knows how to fight. He's trained.
Yeah, he should have been able to take him out pretty easily. You're right.
Exactly. If you put me in a room with a guy roughly my age and all that's been in the military all his life, he's going to kick my ass. Even if he's probably a little smaller than me, because he's going to know how to do it.
So are they alluding to Lex Luthor being in another film?
Yeah, I think they're kind of hinting that it's kind of like the Joker card.
So
he'll show up later.
Are they going to do this after Batman versus Superman?
I don't know. I think he might actually be showing up in Batman versus Superman.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Okay, so is Batman versus Superman like part 2 of this, or is that just like a sidestep of this?
I mean, it is a sequel to this, but I don't know how you say that, because it's if it were Christian Bale playing Batman, I think you could argue that it's a movie separate from both of their movie lines, but because it's Ben Affleck playing him, I think you could say that it's almost the second Superman movie and Batman's in it, because we haven't seen that incarnation of Batman on his own.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Whereas we will have seen this Superman. It's all CG. It's just...
Yeah, it's just...
Sometimes too much of a good thing, is too much of a good thing.
Well, it's all happening so fast, it's just kind of boring to me.
Exactly, that's what I mean. It's too dynamic.
Yeah.
And you can't... You're just watching a cartoon after a while.
Yeah, although that was kind of an interesting trick he just did. He twirled him around,
throwing him by the cape. Yeah.
Even though you could barely see it, because it's all happening, and it was a cartoon. It's like, yeah, it's boring. Yeah, now they go up into space.
Now they're in Superman,
and they have to hit something.
Yeah, God forbid.
There's plenty of room in space, so they find something to hit. Superman 4 territory. Yeah.
And they conveniently come back to Earth
right
in the same spot.
Yeah. It's like in Robot Jocks.
Zod comes off as a real puss, because he can't take him out. Zod wouldn't need armor, wouldn't need weapons. He would just...
Yeah, he should know how to fight, and Superman shouldn't. Not really.
Yeah, I mean, it should be Zod holding Superman in this position.
Yeah. Right here, did I maybe, because they don't show what happens after he snaps his neck, but you see his head swivel. When he does that, obviously, because he turns his neck.
Did he have turned it into
the people? Because Superman goes, no, and I'm like,
well, if you look at the way his hand is on his chin, he would have pulled his head the other way.
It looks like it's about to get him, and then
no, he does. He
turns his head.
It to the,
see,
it does go that direction.
So I'm like,
first.
Oh, it must have killed him. So that's why Superman screams no. And I'm like,
he screams no because he had to kill.
Because they don't show those. They don't show those people again.
No, they lived. It wasn't because of that.
Because I expected them to turn the camera there, and you see these ash ashen people, something like that, but they don't. Because it looked like he was almost looking at him right now. And I was like, oh, he's screaming no because he killed him. I'm like, oh.
I hated this moment. I hated that he screamed.
Yeah, that was stupid.
I was like, what are you, Klingon? Come on.
Yeah,
doing your death yell?
Yeah, it would have been worse if it was a shot from above, No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yes, he's affected because he's had this is the first time people have died as a result of him today, but this is the first time he did it on purpose. And that affects him. And I like that they pay attention to that. I don't like the situation. I don't like how it played out. I'm not necessarily opposed to him killing Zod because he has no choice. I just didn't like the setup.
It was interesting imagery of him on his knees hugging Lois. That was interesting.
Yeah, that
was without dialogue, a way of showing how affected he was.
Yeah, I like that. I like that far better than the screaming.
Yeah.
Are you effing stupid?
I thought Superman was kind of a dick, just trashing that.
Yeah, I thought.
And the guy's like, "That's a multi-million-dollar piece of machinery."
Not anymore.
Well, it's not anymore.
Yeah. He could have just returned it to him,
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, you're not going to find me, so stop trying.
Mm-hmm. And then he says right here, he's like, "I grew up in Kansas. Could you give these guys any more clues?" Seriously.
Yeah, I know. You just basically gave him your identity. Yeah.
Do you think they won't figure it out at this point? You've narrowed it down to a state.
Yeah.
They're gonna figure it out. Superman in this is kind of stupid.
It's like they said in Reservoir Dogs. He's like, okay, he knows what you look like. He knows your name, where you're from. It's not going to be too hard to pick you out of a lineup.
Exactly.
Could have done without this line.
And given that they know the bad guy, they know the bad guys went to Kansas and that they fought there and that they were at the Kent farm. Everyone is going to figure this out.
Get in the car, Captain.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
You agree with me? That was a bad line, right?
Oh, I think he's hot. Oh, I know.
Okay, this you didn't say.
When I saw it in the theater, yes, the audience laughed. It got a joke, and I chuckled too. Yes, but of course it's terrible.
Yeah.
Just terrible. And his reaction, he's like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, you women, can't believe we let you serve. What do you think about this being a bit of a tag?
It's too
self-referential.
Yeah, yes, but it's also too photography.
Yeah, it is. It's too staged.
Yeah, is that the word I'm looking for? It's just it's too obvious. And it's a Snyder style that you feel in it, and like, well, could have done without that, or they could have done it in a less obvious, less stylized way.
Yeah. Norman Rockwell meets Superman.
So like this, I'm like,
yeah,
all right, we get it.
Yeah, so that's over the top.
I have actually. I gotta find a job where I can.
See, now he's explaining his logic and reasoning for getting a job at the Daily Planet, and that's cool. But what the fuck experience does he have to where he could get this job?
Yeah, he didn't study journalism.
I think Perry introduces him as a cub reporter, but man, Lois Lane is a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter. What business does he have working at her level?
Yeah, they don't really explain that. Yeah,
and he tells Lois and the gang here to show him the ropes. Yeah, I don't think so.
What do you say?
I say.
They'd be like, no, I got other things to do.
You'll probably have more luck.
I mean, I don't know. Did Christopher Reeve
look at this chick? Look at this chick. Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, I agreed with you. But did Christopher Reeve mention that he had gone to college or whatever that before when he showed up at the Daily Planet that day?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. That because that's kind of the history they
because in the Reeve film, he kind of leaves and goes off to the Fortress of Solitude and stays there for a while, then comes back. He's, and he's at the Daily Planet and there's some missing time. You don't know exactly what's happened.
There's considerable missing time.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't say he went to college, but I kind of assume he must have. Never really thought about it. He obviously spends a lot of time in the fortress being educated by Jarrell.
Mm-hmm. But not how to be a journalist.
No, but like you said, there's a lot of unaccounted time in that movie. You could say he went. There's no reason to say he didn't.
Did you recognize that credit, John Peters?
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was funny. I had no idea.
Giant spiders.
Yeah. Did he produce Superman Returns as well?
I think he did.
Does he just have a huge piece of Superman?
He must, because he seems always connected to
him. Yeah. Well, he's got to be a wealthy man.
And he was involved in the early Batman movies.
Yeah.
The non-Nolan Batman movies.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long these credits are. Probably pretty long. So
yeah, they go on. Well, what are some of your final thoughts on the movie?
Well, you pointed out some holes that I hadn't considered. Then again, I mean, I wasn't really analyzing it. I was just trying to enjoy it. I just really wanted to enjoy a movie. I wasn't in the mood to pick it apart. Of course, I couldn't help but compare it to the Donner films. That's all I know. And it was nice to see something different. It did throw me off at first, but it was nice to see them try something new, even though I didn't agree with it all. I actually enjoy plenty of parts in this movie. Parts of it are really interesting. Some of it I don't like, as I pointed out during the commentary. But I actually enjoy. I would never watch Superman Returns, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I never have any inkling to ever watch it. If it's on, I would never stop. If this was on, I might watch parts of it. And I wouldn't mind owning it. I don't own Superman Returns. Don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's boring. I mean, this movie doesn't bore me, even though its action goes on forever. It's not incredibly boring. I mean, the action gets dull, but it's not boring in the same way that Returns is boring. But anyway, I think it's a decent entry. I think they could have done better. I think you were right that they were trying to cop too much to the Batman style that's going on right now. And I wish they hadn't done that, because that's not Superman. And even though I said I'm glad they were trying different things, what they were trying to do was just copy somebody else's style. They weren't trying to do something of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what bothers me. But as a film, it's okay. I give it 3 out of 5. It's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Well, I think I've kind of said everything. I enjoy the movie. I didn't love it the first time. The more I've seen it, the more I liked it, because of the shock of it not being what the originals were. And of course, the originals are the Superman movies to me. But that said, once the shock of that wore off, I started to appreciate many of the things that they did that were, I think, a shock to a lot of people going into this. That they expected Krypton to look a certain way. They expected Jonathan Kent to die a certain way, and little things like that. I enjoyed the fact that the movie ends with him assuming the role at the Daily Planet and Lois knowing who he is. I like that. It solves a lot of issues that people have always had about Lois and all of that, because now she can kind of love Clark and Superman at the same time. She knows they're the same guy, so it's kind of takes that pressure off her being, kind of a superficial whatever. I liked Lawrence Fishburne. I liked the added motivation that Zod had for trying to he wasn't into world domination per se. He was trying to protect Kryptonian culture, and I liked that. I didn't like the whole business with the Codex. I thought it was a little, I don't know, MacGuffin-y.
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere. Kal-El still has those codecs built into him, and it didn't seem to do anything. You know, he's not changed in any way by having them built into his body. And as far as I can tell, Zod destroyed the ship that he could use to then, produce more Kryptonians. So it's like, well, that went nowhere. It should have just stayed in the skull, rather than be put into his body. Which also, if you think about it, why would Jor-El do that? Why put them into his body? Why not just put the skull on the ship? Because, I don't know, that means that at some point he would probably ask his son to harvest his own body to get those things out. That kind of makes no sense. But nevertheless, I've liked it more and more as I've rewatched it. And while I do find, obviously, I pointed them out, certain plot holes in the movie, I still nonetheless enjoy it. And as you pointed out, it is way better than Superman Returns. And even though I disagree with some things, I was never bored. And I do think the action goes on a little too long. It's a little too monotonous, but not boring. It's just a cacophony of sound and images, and it gets a little overwhelming. But I enjoyed it as a whole, and I do look forward to see where they go with it, especially bringing Batman into it. I'm actually really curious to see how they pull that off, because this movie, I can't really see this Superman, this universe, accepting Batman. I can't see those two characters together. It's like, because the Nolan world was so real, so realistic, and Batman was just in it, this seems so fantastical because of the types of people that are in it, the Kryptonians. I really don't know how they're going to pull this off with having Batman and Superman really exist in the same world.
Because it is Snyder directing that, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be a lot harder than people think to make that believable. It's very easy to do that in a cartoon or in comics, but I mean, the CG, washed in CG world that Superman is, unfortunately, can you see Batman standing in that world? It doesn't.
I can't see Batman in this movie. It would feel
exactly,
awkward.
Exactly, and that's where I think they're going to have a problem. And the same thing. Could you see this? I mean, in exactly the same outfit, could you see that character of Superman standing on the rooftop with Batman the way he did, say, in Dark Knight?
No,
he would look totally wrong.
Yeah.
I really don't know how they're going to pull that off. How they're going to have these two worlds come together, even though they're obviously DC universe and all that. But even though this definitely strived for the whole real world feel, but because of what they have to do with CG and everything, Batman doesn't really have. I mean, of course, there's CG in it, a little bit, but it's mostly real. This, I don't know. I just think they're going to have a real problem mixing those two things together. I think the tone of the two characters, not just in their personalities, but literally in their presentation, is going to be tough to blend. And, I mean, yeah, in the comics, you can show Batman do certain things to where he could really fight Superman, but I don't know. The way they show it in this movie, Superman would just wipe the floor with him, in a split second. It's kind of hard to see how they're going to pull this off. I'm very curious to see how they do it.
Well, isn't that years away from now?
Yeah, probably like maybe 2 years-ish. But anyway.
I'll be curious too. I don't know. But, I mean, Batman did beat Superman in the comics, right?
Well, kind of.
Didn't he shoot him with a kryptonite bullet?
Oh, at some point he has, but no. Well, at least not the one I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the Dark Knight Returns, where he built a superpowered suit that he fought him in, and he did have kryptonite in it that weakened him so he could beat him up with it, but then he had a heart attack.
Oh.
As he was fighting him.
Jesus.
So they kind of wiped each other out.
Okay.
Although neither one of them died. He survived the heart attack, and Superman survived the kryptonite and all that. But it was kind of a draw. So anyway, I mean, the credits are pretty much over here. That's Man of Steel. Essentially, a successful reboot. got problems, but overall a successful reboot into the Superman world, I would say. I just would have liked to have seen more originality. You know, I've said it in this commentary, and I've said it before. This movie is basically Superman the movie and Superman 2 mashed together and mixed up. You know, for all of their attempts to be different and to do things differently, they took the plots of the first two movies and redid them. They should have gone a different direction, if given their intentions to be so different. You know what I mean?
You talking to me or the people listening? I don't know.
You.
Yeah, I I agree with you. I do.
Well,
anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
You talked through the whole credit sequence, and more, and beyond. That's fine.
All right.
That's fine. Well, all right. Thanks for listening. I'm Josh from the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy. Thank you for listening. Good night.
And I'm Justin from the Soulless Minions. Good night also.